Maseches Nedarim Daf Lamed Zayin is almost completely about the difference between Mikra and Medrash. Why are you allowed to get paid to teach Mikra, but you're not allowed to get paid to teach Medrash? The Gemara will explain two potential reasons. The Gemara will try to figure out which is the correct one by a number of proofs, including from our last Mishnah. Towards the end of the Daf, the Gemara will bring a number of examples of places where there are unusual things in the Psukim and the Masorah and how we get them from and the different parts of learning Mikra and what their source is. So let's begin. We've seen in our last Mishnah that if somebody's usher to have Hana from someone, he's allowed to learn from him. It's not considered to be Hana to learn from somebody, except for Mikra. Mikra, which is learning Psukim, that you're not allowed to learn from somebody if you're asked to have Hana from him. And the reason is because people often pay for Mikra, to learn Mikra from someone. The teacher of Mikra, that is, again, Psukim, gets paid, and therefore if you're going to learn from him without paying him, you're getting Hana. So the Gemara wants to know, what is the difference between Mikra and Medrash? Why is it that Mikra, as we see, you are sometimes allowed to pay for? There's some places that have a minig not to pay someone to teach Mikra, but that's usually a gzera that they may end up paying to teach Medrash. Those are the explanations. But Medrash, you're never allowed to pay the teacher. So the Gemara wants to know why. So the Gemara gives two potential reasons. First of all, the Gemara rejects one. The Gemara says the source of the Isser to teach, Isser to get paid to teach, that is from the Psukim. The Torah says, "V'osi tziva Hashem v'es hahi lamed eschem." Moshe Rabbeinu says that Hashem commanded him to teach Torah to Klal Yisrael, and because he's commanded, it obviously didn't take money for it. And then it says, "Re'ei limadati eschem chukim u'mishpatim kasher tzivani," and he says, "I taught you Torah." And there's a link between my teaching there and your teaching, just like I taught for free. You should also teach for free. People in Klal Yisrael should not get paid to teach Torah. So the Gemara says that. It doesn't tell me what the difference between Mikra and Midrash is. That should apply equally to both of them. So Gemara gives two potential reasons. And Rav Yochanan and Rav says that you're not really paying for the teaching of Torah, you're paying for the taking care of the child as well. Mikra is usually something which is studied by children. So you're paying for the babysitting that goes along with the teaching. So the teaching part of it you're not paying for. You're paying for the fact that he's caring for the child, the teacher, that is caring for the child while he's teaching him. Now, Rav Yochanan says you're paying for teaching how to read. You're paying him for teaching the Nikud, the Nikudos, and the Trop. Those are all things which are not mitzvah to learn in D'Oraisa. Those aren't Misorah D'Oraisa, and therefore they don't count as something that is forbidden to teach. They don't count as something that is forbidden to get paid to teach, and therefore you can pay, and that's of course only in Mikra. In Medrash you don't have that, and therefore you're not allowed to take money to teach Medrash. So now the Gemara says, if you look at our Mishnah, our last Mishnah had said that there's an Isser Hana on someone, then he's still allowed to teach, but he's not allowed to teach Mikra. Now, which of these two explanations makes sense that he should not be allowed to teach Mikra? That would mean that he's getting paid for Mikra. So if it's referring to the Trop and the reading, so that makes sense. If he's teaching you the Trop and the reading for free, you're getting a Hana. However, if it's children, watching the children, so we're not talking about a child here, so why should it be forbidden to learn from someone without paying him? There's no child care. So the Gemara answers, we're talking about where it's a child. So if it's talking about it's a child, then the next line doesn't make any sense, where it says that you're allowed to teach, you are allowed to teach his children. What do you mean his children? I thought we were talking about a child all along. And the opposite should be true. You're not allowed to teach the children. You are allowed to teach him. So the Gemara says this word is missing. You have to read it as follows. You are allowed to teach Medrash because it's not a Hana. You're not allowed to teach Mikra. That's referring to teaching Mikra to a child because you're getting free child care. If the father is there, then you can teach him because he doesn't need child care, and you can teach his child because he's caring for his own child, and therefore there is no child care, so that is no Hana, and therefore that is permitted. So that is how the Gemara explains these two opinions, and they both fit into the Mishnah. Now the Gemara tries to go on to another proof, and that's by comparing the Isser to take money for teaching Torah to the Isser to take money for Shabbos. So the Gemara says, we have a brisa that says, you should not teach material learned for the first time on Shabbos. If it's a review, even the first review, then you're allowed to teach it on a Shabbos. So now the Gemara says, what should this reason for this be? Obviously the reason is because you are going to get paid, and it's going to be schar Shabbos. You're going to get paid for Shabbos. And you're not allowed to take money for getting paid on Shabbos. So So says the Gemara, what type of payment are we talking about over here? If it's payment for teaching him the trup, to teaching him the reading, like Rabbi Yochanan said, so then I understand why there's a difference between the first time and the second time. The first time you learn something, you're learning the trup and the reading. So therefore, you shouldn't learn something, you shouldn't teach for the first time on Shabbos, because you're not getting paid for it, and that would be Schar Shabbos. If, however, you're talking about childcare, so what's the difference between the first time and the second time? Just like you need childcare for a child the first time you learn something, you need childcare for the child the second time you learn something, shouldn't be a difference. So the Gemara therefore says, this is all incorrect. None of this is a reason that we say that you're not allowed to teach something the first time, and you are allowed to teach it the second time on Shabbos. There's no Isser Shabbos here at all. Schar Shabbos is not an issue, and the reason is because of Havlah. Havlah is a concept that you're allowed to pay for something that is swallowed into something else, and that you see that you are not allowed to rent or hire someone to watch your cow, or to serve as a worker, or to watch your field, or to take care of your child. You're not allowed to hire them on a daily basis and pay them for Shabbos. So if you pay them $1 a day, so then you can't pay them for Shabbos, and therefore if something happens on Shabbos, it's not their responsibility. However, if you hire them on a weekly basis, even if it's $7 a week and it's clearly one a day, but it's hired on a weekly deal, or if you hire them on a monthly or on a yearly, there you're allowed to pay them in full, and they are responsible to work on Shabbos, but it's no Isser, there's no Isser of Schar Shabbos, because of Havlah, you're paying them $7 for the whole week, not anything specific to Shabbos, and therefore there's nothing specific, and there's no Isser. So over here also, there's no problem of the fact that you might be teaching on Shabbos and getting paid for that, because it'll be Havlah, so that's not an issue. What then is the issue? So the Gemara gives two explanations. Number one is we want the fathers not to teach things for the first time on Shabbos because it's very involving and it will distract them from the mitzvahs of Shabbos, mitzvah of owning Shabbos that they have to do. Therefore, we say you're better off reviewing on Shabbos. The second thing is that it's hard for the children to learn new things on Shabbos because they eat and they drink. The world is heavy for them, the Gemara says. It is hard for them to concentrate, and therefore they shouldn't learn things the first time on Shabbos. That is like something that Shmuel says, changing of habits is the first step towards a stomach ailment. And therefore, if you eat different course of foods, they're not free, they're not available to concentrate like they normally would on during the week. Now the Gemara wants to know these two opinions. Why don't they agree with each other? Why don't they each hold of the other one? So the Gemara explains, according to Vyechon, it says that the reason is because of the reading. He didn't want to say that it's childcare is a problem because the Mishnah clearly mentions teaching the girls as well. Teaching the girls is no childcare. They stay home. You teach them at home. And therefore, the mothers are there. Childcare is not an issue. According to Rav, he didn't want to say that the issue is teaching them how to read because he held that learning how to read, the Nikud and the Taimim, those are all the Iraisa as well. And the Gemara quotes the source for that. The Gemara quotes Rav Ika bar Ava, name of Chananel, name of Rav, that there's a pasuk in Nehemiah that says Vayikru b'sefer b'teiras halikim b'feirosh v'soim sechel v'yavinu b'mikra. Each of these things refers to different parts of learning. So the Gemara says Sefer Teres Halikim refers to the Mikra, the Psukim. Mefarish refers to Targum. Soim Sechel refers to where the Psukim end. Yavinu b'Mikra, that is the Tamim and the Nikud. And therefore that's all considered to be the Iraisa. Now some add that Yavinu b'Mikra refers to the Mesiris, the special tradition we have in where things are read differently than they would outwardly appear. Now the Gemara brings a list of examples of peculiarities in the reading of the Torah. So the Gemara quotes Rav Yitzchak, who says that Mikra, which means the pronunciation of the words where you have two words that are spelled the same but pronounced differently, that comes from Seifrim. That comes from the Kadmainim who taught us that. Itor is where words are added to beautify the language. It also comes from Seifrim. However, Kri and Ksiv and Kri, that is where something is written that is not read, or something that is read but is not written, those are Halach Moshe Sinai that was given from Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu and Har Sinai. Then the Gemara brings a number of examples. So as far as the pronunciation, so you have the word Eretz at the end of Psukim, sometimes is read Oretz. So sometimes it's Eretz, sometimes it's Oretz. How do you know which is which? Shomayim could be Shomayim, Mitzrayim could be Mitzrayim. These things are from Sofrim. Those are all spelled the same but pronounced differently. Beautification of the language is where words are put in or changed in order to make it sound nicer. So an example of that is where it says Achar ta'aviru instead of ta'aviru achar kach, or Achar telech, Achar teyasef. Another example is where it says Kidmu Shorim Achar Noignim Tzikasl Kahare Kel. Those are all examples of beautification of the language, and that comes from Sofer. Now, something which is read but not written, where you read a word that's not there. So, an example of that, Gemara brings a number of examples. Gemara brings the word for us in Vayach David es Hadad Ezer ben Rechay Melch Tzeva Belachte Elohashav Yadei bin Har. That's where we end. That's where the written ends, but the Kri adds the word pras, so it's Nahar pras. Then you have the word ish, where it says ish. The word ish is read but not written. Another example is where it says Hina Yamim Ba'im Nom Hashem V'nechos Ha'ir LaHashem V'nivnisa, that is Ha'ir LaHashem Yimigdal Chananel Shar Hapina. Again, the word Ba'im there is read but is not written. And the next example is where it says La in a pasuk Hashmiyu El Bavel Rabim Kol Dorchi Keshes Chanu Eleh Saviv Al Yehi La Paleta. That is also read but not written. And then you have the word S in the pasuk Vayan Boaz V'Yemer La Hugad Li Kol Asher Asis Es Chamoy Seich. And there that's also read but not written. And another example is where it says a lie, that is also read but not written. Now, here's the examples of things which are written but are not read. So the word no in the pasuk, Al Yadi V'Hishtachavesi Beis Rumen B'Hishtachavayasi Beis Rumen Yislach. Then it says no, but we don't read it. Hashem la'avdecha b'davar hazeh. Then you have the word zos in Yirmiyah, where it says V'Yishava Melch Tzidkiyahu El Yirmiyah B'Seisu Le'Morchai Hashem Es Asher Asa. We don't even read that. Es there. Es Asher Asa Lanu Es Nefesh Hazos. Im HaMischa V'Imtencha B'Yad HaNashim Ha'ela Hashem V'Vakshem Es Nefshecha. So we don't read that zos. Now we have the word yadrech in a pasuk, also in Yirmiyah El Yidroch. It says yadrech there. We don't read it. Haderech kashtoi. Now we have the word chamesh in Yecheskel ve'elamido seha pa'asafon chamesh meos ve'arba salafim fas negav chamesh. And it says the word chamesh again, and we skip it. Meos ve'arba lafim. And the last example is the word im, that is in the pasuk V'ataki amnam ki im. We don't read that im. Goyal nechi v'gam yesh goyal karev mimeni. That's in Rus. V'gam yesh goyal karev mimeni. There is the im. There is not read, so it's the im that we skip.